What is going on, guys? Victor here, and in this week's Tackle Tuesday I am going to address a very common question in the fishing world, and that is fluorocarbon worth the money? With this being said, keep in mind I am not talking about fluorocarbon or nylon fishing line in this video. I am referring strictly to leader material. Additionally, keep in mind that a lot of the information presented in this video is going to be based on my personal opinion, my personal experiences, my friends' experiences, and then on top of it, the research that I've done online through articles. I actually found no legitimate research on the concept of fluorocarbon versus nylon leader material. But the articles that I did find helpful, I will make sure to include in the link in the description box below. Okay, the number one point I'm going to bring up is the concept of cost. So first of all, your fluorocarbon leader material can be anywhere from 2 to 5 times the amount of the cost of a traditional nylon monofilament leader. Cost is really important to you as an angler because you don't want to waste your time on something you don't need and that may actually not benefit you, and in the long run you may actually benefit from the nylon leader material. The first issue I'm going to address is this concept of invisibility, and fluorocarbon leader companies often push this at you and say that their fluorocarbon is invisible to the naked eye, invisible to fish, or that it is less visible or virtually invisible underwater. I'm going to start out by saying that I did not find a single research article or publication that stated that fluorocarbon leader material is any less visible or completely invisible as opposed to nylon monofilament leader. So the science behind where these leader companies get this marketing strategy of telling you that the fluorocarbon leader is actually less visible to fish comes from a term called refractive index. What refractive index is referring to is when light is passing through your line, such as your fluorocarbon leader. The refractive index of the fluorocarbon leader is more similar to that of water than nylon monofilament is to that of water. So in theory, your fluorocarbon leader material is going to distort light less in water than a typical nylon monofilament leader will. However, there is not a single study to show that a fish can actually discern this difference in the refractive indexes between the two lines. And on top of that, there are also so many other factors that come into play, such as the temperature of the water, the temperature of the air, how the line was made, the depth of the water. There are too many variables to really discern and to distinguish if the fish can actually see it. And here is why I think people think that fluorocarbon is more invisible to the fish's eye. If you take two strands of 30-pound leader, one being fluorocarbon, one being nylon monofilament, the fluorocarbon is going to be thinner in most cases. This all depends on the brand, but almost always it is going to be thinner. So now when you go fishing and your buddy's fishing nylon mono and your other buddy's fishing fluorocarbon and your buddy who's fishing fluoro is getting more hits, he's going to say, oh, the fish can't see my leader. No, your leader is actually thinner and it's distorting less light and the fish can't see it as well. Do you see where that could be a huge misnomer and people think that the fluorocarbon is actually invisible? It may more be a product of the fact that your leader is actually thinner, because that is one of the benefits of fluorocarbon is you can get away with a thinner leader, but it breaks at the same strength as the nylon 30-pound. Now I wanted to address the concept of knot strength and strength of the leader material overall too. Now from what I've read online, it is a complete toss-up. I've read so many articles that say that fluorocarbon is actually stronger than others that say that nylon. So I think this largely also depends on the brand of fluorocarbon and the brand of nylon leader material you're fishing. But generally, the articles tended to favor the nylon monofilament when it comes to knot strength and breaking strength. Another concept when it comes to fluorocarbon versus nylon leader is also stretch. And when I'm talking about stretch, I'm talking about the elasticity of the line. So how easily is it going to be able to stretch back and forth if I pull it from end to end? And from what I've read online and the articles, and you've actually from personal experience, nylon, your typical nylon leader, does seem to stretch more. But this might be beneficial for you because if you're fishing for certain fish where you know the hooks pull easily, or you're fishing for things such as kingfish, otherwise known as king mackerel, a lot of times you end up hooking these fish in areas other than the mouth, and the hooks will pull easily. So if you have a leader material that is very rigid and doesn't have a lot of elasticity, your chances of your hooks pulling are actually going to increase. So this is one feat or one area where your nylon leader material actually may be superior to your fluorocarbon leader material. Another issue that I researched is the fact that nylon leader material absorbs water. So what this is going to mean is is that once it absorbs that little bit of water, it is tend to going to be a little bit more buoyant and neutral, as opposed to fluorocarbon, which absorbs no water, or supposedly absorbs no water, or very, very little water, so it's going to sink faster. But here's another application where fluorocarbon may not be in your favor. If you're fishing a topwater lure, you do not want your leader sinking. If your lure is right here, you do not want your leader to be sinking like this, because it's going to be dragging it down. This is one area where your monofilament nylon leader may actually be superior again. Here is why I say that I don't think that the sink rate matters for fluorocarbon versus nylon monofilament leader, at least personally. So when you're fishing a jig, let's say you're fishing a 2-ounce jig, or you're fishing a 2-ounce sinker, what's going to dictate how fast your line is going to sink is mostly going to be your main line and not your leader material. Think about the proportion of how much leader you have to how much main line you're letting down. Your main line is going to dictate it. You could have 3 feet of fluorocarbon leader, 3 feet of nylon leader, but if you have braid on the nylon leader main line and mono on the nylon leader main line, it's idiotic to say that your fluorocarbon is going to sink faster. It's going to be definitely your braided line that's going to sink faster. So I think more of your main line comes into play when it comes to this concept. So I think the whole concept of your fluorocarbon leader line sinking more is just another gimmick and marketing strategy for the fluorocarbon leader companies to throw at you to try to get you to buy their product. I might be wrong. Once again, this is my personal opinion. With all the other factors being said, I don't think any of them have a significant impact on whether or not you should invest in fluorocarbon versus nylon leader material. The one factor that I really do think you should consider is the concept of abrasion resistance. I can without a doubt tell you that fluorocarbon leader material is a lot more abrasion resistant than nylon monofilament leader material. Now, yes, this is also going to largely depend on the brand that you choose for your fluorocarbon leader. If you're fishing a pure fluorocarbon, which is going to be PVDF, or polyvinyl dilene fluoride, which is the actual synthetic material used to create fluorocarbon, then you are always going to be fishing a more abrasion resistant material than your typical nylon leader material. And the reason for this is because of the concept of density. I did a little research on abrasion resistance, and I could not find one single answer or factor that accounts for abrasion resistance, but one thing that I did find is that density of the material has a lot to do with it. And the synthetic material, PVFD, like I told you, that is used to create fluorocarbon is a lot more dense than the typical materials used to make your nylon monofilament leader, and this is why fluorocarbon is a lot more abrasion resistant than your nylon leader material. On top of that, from personal experience, I can without a doubt tell you that your fluorocarbon leader material is so much more abrasion resistant. I don't care what species you're fishing for. If your leader material requires you to be around structure, if you're fishing for fish that have teeth or have really rough mouths, such as a snook or tarpon, this is where your fluorocarbon is definitely going to come into play, because I have lost a lot of fish on mono where the mono leader will just get cut right away. It is not very abrasion resistant, but fluorocarbon, it can really take a beating and abuse. One thing that I also want to address is something that I noticed personally, is that fluorocarbon leader tends to be a lot stiffer and sits straighter as a leader material than your typical nylon monofilament leader. And why is this beneficial? Well, especially when you're fishing for things like snapper. Snapper are very skittish when it comes to squiggles in your leader. They like a nice straight presentation, and most fish like a nice straight presentation. It makes your lure work better. It presents your bait in a more natural fashion than if your leader has any kinks in it. And I've noticed that fluorocarbon, with it being really dense and hard, it will sit straighter most of the time. Take home message for this video: is fluorocarbon worth the money? That is entirely up to you. That is a personal choice based on what you're fishing for. I recommend fluorocarbon when you're fishing for species such as snook or tarpon that have really rough mouths for the abrasion resistance. I think that the whole concept of the invisibility thing is a gimmick. That is my personal opinion. Until there's an actual research article that backs up the data and says that fish can see it less than nylon monofilament leader, I will keep fishing mono. But if you guys are fishing for things that require that abrasion, definitely check out fluorocarbon, check out that brand. I want to thank you guys for watching till the end of this video, and please comment below if you are a big proponent of fluorocarbon and why. I want to hear why you guys like it. You might think I'm an idiot, you might think it's invisible, you might have a story to tell me, but let me know in the comment section below, and I'll be seeing all you guys, my Landsharks, in that next video. Peace.